Three, two, one.
So, back to the technology show. Bring myself in there and remove myself to there. That should be a bit better. Right, so now we should be on full screen. So basically, shiny glossy black, but it's got a matte frame. Really fun colors. There was, I think it's frost and lemongrass that are in the mix. The one that I've got and the one that's on the screen is indigo. It's actually quite a head turner when you pull out this blue phone. People look. But anyway, I think it's the best color. It's up to you, I suppose, what you want. But yeah, it it's the kind of phone that it just feels good in your hand. It's built well. It feels good. It doesn't feel like it's going to fall out of your hand easily. It just slides into your pocket. Clearly you can see I'm already sold, and we haven't even gone into some of the features yet. But now, trying to keep with the flow, if we look at the Pixel 10 Pro XL, now there is a Pixel 10 Pro, as there was a 9 Pro and 9 Pro XL last year. The difference is basically the size of the phone, the screen. I think the battery is slightly bigger on the 10 Pixel Pro, uh, but then again, you're going to use more battery power. So other than that, they're pretty much the same phone. Right. So back to the 10 Pro XL, bigger, bolder. It's the big brother. Okay. I see I got a thumbs up here already. Gary's always up early in the morning on that side of the world. Gary, if you're an Android user, which if I remember correctly, you are, this is the phone, bro. Anyway, stay tuned. So back to the show. It is a little heavier. It's bigger and it's wider, but it's got this matte finish on the black and a glossy frame, and it is so glossy. It just looks and feels good. Now, I am going to say it because others are going to point it out. Not from the back, because nothing says Pixel more than the camera housing, but it does look very iPhone-y. It doesn't have the notch in the top. It's still got the pinhole camera. But when you look at this device, it has got a semblance of iPhone design. And you know what? Why not? If they've set some standards and Google's gone and looked at that. It's a 6.3-inch on the 10. As I said, it's a 6.3 on the 10 and a 6.8 on the XL. So it's an extra 0.5 inches. Let's go back to the 10 for a second. So 10 has a super bright, I mean, you're not going to have problems seeing it outside. And I got to play with both these phones for the last 2 weeks. So that's what I said at the beginning of the show. I've been super excited about doing the show because we're not allowed to talk about the devices before we're allowed to talk about the devices. And it's been a few days that they've been out, and I've been like itching, but my show's always on a Wednesday. Hey Kev, thanks for the thumbs up. I know you would dig this phone as well, especially on the music side. We'll get to that a bit later. Anyway, back to the phone. I keep getting myself distracted. Um, the 10 has a refresh rate that goes up to a 120 hertz, which is quite something for what's deemed to be an entry or mid-range phone. 120 hertz, everything feels smooth. Your graphics are smooth, your media is smooth, you're playing a game, it's smooth. That's pretty much where you need to be at a top end of the phone. Now, if I jump back to the 10 Pro XL, um, big screen experience, 6.8, as I said, really good for watching movies, editing photos. That's important when we talk about cameras a bit later on in the show, or just enjoying a bigger phone. I'm not a fan of a big phone. When I go for iPhone, I always go for the Pro. I don't go for the Pro Max, which is kind of the same two sizes that we're talking about here. But that being said, there's a lot of people that enjoy a big phone, so they're obviously going to look at the XL. Um, it has an even brighter screen than the 10, and this is where it gets interesting. The refresh rate can drop, so it also goes up to 120 hertz, but it can drop all the way down to as low as 1 hertz. Now, the reason why you would have a phone that drops or moves up and down in its refresh rates is battery power. So if you would just things like that where you don't need a high refresh rate on your screen, 1 hertz will do the trick. Well, you probably want to be at about 10 or 15. 1 hertz is pretty much just static. It's there. The Pixel 10 only goes down to 60 hertz. So that means it would use more battery. And this has probably got to do with the offloading, the way the RAM works. I never get into technical things like that at that level on the show. That's not what the show's about. If someone really wants to know, I could probably Google it and come back to you on a later show. That being said, there are going to be things that are missing today that people know are out. I will only be talking about those at later stages, and I will leave some stuff out in the show as well, just to also embellish the future show that I'll do on certain other devices. But at 60 hertz, that's kind of where a lot of phones actually stay. This is where the Pixel 10 goes down to. So between 60 and 120 hertz on the 10, and from 1 to 120 on the 10 Pro XL. I have put up on the screen like a picture that shows, well, again, shows the blue. If you're watching the show, you'll see there's 3 phones on the screen. The one on the extreme left is the XL, and then you'll see that the Pro and the 10 are pretty much the same size. What you will notice is that the back of the phone, because these pictures are taken from the back, there's a little sensor difference or sensor missing on the 10. So you can see the flash on all 3, and on the Pro and Pro XL, there's a little sensor. So that will also obviously affect how you take photos and light and those on. But again, we'll get to that when we talk about the camera. Right, so let's talk about what's inside. Both phones, or all 3 phones, but the 2 that I've played with and talking about today, have the new Google Tensor G5 chip. Now, Google's really focused on making this chip great for all the AR stuff that they're famous for. And both phones are packed with smart features. As per previous Pixel models, it's good to see that all the phones get the same processor. This is not the case with other competitors. There's a lot of phones being launched now, have just been launched, and will be launched in the future. These brands do not share the same devices, or sorry, the processors across their different models. They might get the same naming convention like Galaxy, but if it's an entry level or a higher level, you can get a different processor. Apple definitely does it. If you look at the 16 range, the 16 and the 16 Pro have got different processors inside them. So that's something that Google always gets right. It's the same processor, it's the same brain that's in the phone, whether you're getting the entry level or you're getting the top of the range. There is a difference with RAM. The Pixel 10 has 12 gigs of RAM, which is more than enough. I actually just want to pause at this point because unlike a computer, when you're buying a computer and you're doing a lot of graphic work or things like that, you need RAM. You need RAM to basically carry the load. Think of it as the muscles of your device. A mobile phone with everything being optimized for mobile, 12 gigs of RAM is a lot of RAM. In fact, I stand corrected, but I think it's only 8 gigs of RAM in an iPhone. So the entry level Google Pixel 10 has more than an iPhone. And iPhones have never been accused of being slouches. And I'm using that comparison not because I'm trying to take away from the Pixel. Um, this show is all about the Pixel, but to show you the importance of RAM in mobile devices. Now, where 12 gigs of RAM is good enough for anything that you would need or need to do on the phone, the 10 Pro series, so the Pro and the XL, goes up to a whopping 16 gigs of RAM. Now, why would you want to? I've just said, well, you don't need more than 12 gigs of RAM. This is basically for a pro user when you're doing heavy graphic interfaces, lots of big photo editing on your phone, have 5,000 million apps open at once. That extra 4 gigs will make a difference. If you do photo editing and you have 1,000 gigs apps open in your phone on the 10, are you going to notice it? No. What might happen is the phone might heat more with less RAM because the processor has to do a lot more work. It doesn't have the offloading of the RAM. But other than that, I don't think it'll be noticeable for 99% of people that use phones. And in fact, you know, often people say to me, oh, which phone should I get, Brett? Well, it depends what you're going to use it for. It does. If you're a very, very high-end photo user, then yes, you'd probably look at Pro with 16 gigs of RAM. If you're looking to take incredible photos and you're not going out to edit them for every single Instagram post in the world, 10 is going to smash it. Now, on that note, talking about cameras, the Pixels, the Pixels, yes, the Pixels, sorry. I lost my train of thought there. Both of these phones are Pixels. So you know that the camera is going to be amazing. That's what I was trying to get out earlier, and I kind of ruined that one. But the standard Pixel 10 has a fantastic camera system. And with a great main camera and an ultra-wide lens, it also now has a telephoto lens that can zoom up to 5 times optical zoom. That's right, with 3 cameras on the back. The previous Pixel 9, and I stand corrected, but I think I'm right on the Pixel 8, only had 2 cameras on the back. So now they've actually gone and put the 3-camera array like they do on the Pro systems. You get a 48 megapixel main, you get a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and you get a 10.8 megapixel telephoto with 5 times optical. So it's optical, not digital. And that's critical to point out because a lot of phones, especially when they only have 2 cameras, have to rely on digital zoom. And digital zoom basically is the phone using its pixel technology and AI and processor to make the picture look better from a distance and when it zooms in. Optical is optical. It's using optics. So you are zooming in using magnification, and then the AI takes in and the software takes in. And that's what makes these phones take such incredible photographs. So when I received the device, I was really, really excited to see that the telephoto lens was back in, even on the entry-level device. The Pro XL really kicks it up a notch. So, and again, I'm talking about the Pro XL. It's the same for the Pro. I just didn't have a Pro, so I can only talk about the phone that I had. It's a 50 megapixel main. It's a 48 megapixel ultra wide, and it's a 48 megapixel 5 times telephoto. There's also something new called ProRes Zoom, and this was a 1 gigabit download. It was like, do you want to try ProRes Zoom? Of course I do. I'm doing a review. Hit button. 1 gig later. I feel like we're in an edition of SpongeBob here. 1 gig later. So after downloading a gig, ProRes Zoom, which uses a ton of Google's AI magic to give you an insane 100 times zoom. Now, remember, I've just mentioned the difference between an optical zoom and a digital zoom, right? So 5 times optical zoom, same as the 10, but another 95 times zoom, i.e. taking up to 100 using this ProRes Zoom technology. Now, I took a couple of pictures. Unfortunately, I don't have any of them to show in here because I was just keeping it standard stock pictures. But I sat in the distance and I took a picture. And first of all, when you're zooming to that magnitude, a shaky hand doesn't help. It's like it kind of wobbles around a bit. So, and I think most pro photographers would use a tripod anyway, but you need some form of gimbal or tripod to make sure that you take advantage of that zoom. But what happens is it zooms in. I actually took a picture looking at it, a little piece of land in the ocean. So it looks like this little odd piece of land, like the naked eye would see it. And on the screen, it kind of looks a bit blurry. And then you hit it, and this is where the magic kicks in. Using AI, using ProRes Zoom, whatever other insane tools Google has put into this, it just cleans it up. It just goes from this blurry thing into something that you can see. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to be able to read a license plate a mile away. That's not what it's for. Maybe actually I should try that. I will try that. And when I do a follow up on additional Pixel devices, I will do that. But I took something that had words in it that I could see was very like can't think of the word, scrambled, like it wasn't clear. And then the AI kicked in and the letters became very clear. So, people, I've seen devices before that come up with these super long range zooms. They don't have that kind of technology. They definitely cannot fix or add pixels or use AI to change it. So, absolutely blown away with ProRes Zoom. And again, I said it earlier. I think the statement I said was people buy pixels because of the cameras. This feature definitely hits that home more than ever. Front-facing cameras are quite different too. The Pixel 10 boasts a respectable 10.5 megapixel front-facing, which again, for a video call, even what we're doing now, if I wanted to stream from the device, I could. It would be clear. But the Pro has a 42 megapixel. So again, if you were going to take pictures, you see people doing TikTok videos all the time, and they've got their phones facing them and they're looking at it. You know, 42 megapixels is pretty good. There's a tip there as well. You can set it up and you can link it using USB-C to a little screen so you can see what you're doing and take advantage of the back cameras. But if you're going to do your front-facing thing, 42 megapixels, nothing to be slouched at. Okay, so some of the features. Now, I said earlier at the show, I'm not going to talk about all the features. I know I've left it out. Please don't send me comments going, hey, Brett, I was reading about blah. I read about it too, and I played with it too. I am going to be doing another Pixel show. If you've been a viewer and a listener of my show for years now, thank you. You would know when it comes to Pixel, it's always staged, and I always do 2, if not 3 shows on Pixel. So I've had to choose some of the things that I played with, and I've had to leave some out so that at least when I get to this part of the review on the next show, I've got some other cool AI and software to talk about. So back to what I am talking about today. Magic Q. Now, this is intelligence that's baked into phone messages. There was one other thing. I can't remember what it was. I think it was like the board, like Google Boards. Basically, what it is, I'll give an example. So let's say you and a mate are messaging about meeting for lunch. Magic Q will pick up and you're going to meet at restaurant X. Magic Q will then pick up that name, start looking for information on it on the web, bring up your calendar for scheduling. This is all happening inside your messaging app. So while you're sitting there typing away, this is what's actually going on. It's awesome. Like, you know, think about what without Magic Q, right? You're chatting to a mate now, you're setting up lunch, and then you've got, hold on a second, I'm just going to put you on speaker. I'm going to open up my calendar, have a look. It brings it into the text. You don't have to leave anything. I mentioned, hold on, I have to put you on speaker. I was getting to that. Phone calls has Magic Q too. I'm going to use a different example for phone calls because you could do what I've just said. It would bring up your calendar that if you're on speaker and you're looking at your phone. But now I've just had my family visiting and then they had to fly home. So let's say, for example, there was a problem and I needed to phone the airline. You dial the airline, it recognizes that it's Qantas. It brings up the Qantas website, and it's there ready. But as soon as I mention, then it starts looking through my emails for confirmations of flights from Qantas. It finds the email, it sees that I'm flying on QF64, whatever it might be, and it brings up, when you go to Google and you type QF64, it brings up that little square that shows you from Sydney to Johannesburg, flight time, blah, blah, blah. That actually appears on your screen while you're talking about your flight. So the Magic Q is basically listening and integrating across all the different things inside your phone. Yeah, so that's Magic Q. Now, one of the main reasons, I mentioned this earlier, but one of the main reasons people buy and love their Pixel phones is because of the cameras. I think that's the 3rd time I've said that on this show. Did I say that people buy Pixels because of the cameras? Camera Coach. So Camera Coach basically makes suggestions on your screen of how to take an even bigger picture, a better picture, sorry. So including things like angle and lighting. Now, again, for 98% of people, you pick up your phone, you point it, you shoot. Maybe you zoom out. some people have figured out if they touch their screen, they can scroll up and down and change the light. You can change the bokeh effect in the background. If you select something like portrait, it'll blur out your background and put your focal point, your thing that you're focusing on, up front and center. If you touch that, it'll blur that and bring your background in. So these are all little things that we've known how to do for ages. But Camera Coach actually says and brings up, elevate your angle, bring it down. Maybe you want to zoom in, zoom back out. It's basic, the lighting. It will help you with lighting. You scroll up, scroll down, maybe move to the left or move to the right because the sun's in the way. So it actually looks at what the screen is seeing and then says, oh, you've got a little light flare coming in from the left. Maybe you want to move to the right. That's what Camera Coach is. So for people that are actually looking at taking better pictures, not becoming pros, and there's no reason why a pro couldn't take advantage of something like this, but Camera Coach basically coaches you on how to get an even better picture than what the camera is capable of doing. Now, I think the last thing I'm going to talk about on software side of the pixels, we've all got that friend that blinks or files money. I can't talk today. Smiles funny. That friend that files money. There's always that one person in the group shop that ruins the picture, right? And how many times you've taken the picture, oh, it looks so good in this picture, but Brett's got a funny smile on his face. He, what did I say? Files money. So Auto Best Take now automatically finds and combines similar photos. So picture the aperture is open, it's just recording pictures the whole time. How Live works on most photos, and Apple uses that for Live as well. But what it does, it looks for the best one, and then it combines similar photos, and it makes one where everyone just looks their best. So, 4 people standing next to each other, arms around each other, one's got a bad look on his face. Auto Best Take will find another photo. Hopefully there's one there where their eyes are open or they are smiling or whatever it might be, or they're actually looking at the camera. And then combine that into and give you that photo. The other thing, just to go hand in hand with that, which is not new, AdMe we were introduced to last year when the Pixel 9s came out. But AdMe has also been improved now for bigger groups. So AdMe, if you don't know what it is or you didn't follow the show last year, to my pictures, well, something went wrong on my screen. I've just noticed that. I don't know if people can still see the presentation, but it seems to have gone. Apologies if you can't. But anyway, I'll carry on as long as the audio is still there. So basically, AdMe was, I've got one kid, all the holiday photos, it's my wife and my kid. There's never photos of me unless someone has been nice enough to, I'm going to print myself back in, otherwise it's just really a blank screen. I don't know what's going on here. So basically, it's just Gail and Cade. There's never pictures of me, right? So what AdMe does is I can take a picture of Gail and Cade. Gail can then come, take the phone. I can go and stand on the other side of where she isn't standing, and it will knit the picture together. And that was kind of worked well for 2 or 3 people. Now it's been designed to actually work. Oh, my screen's come back. Now it's been designed to accommodate bigger groups. So you might have a team shot, and again, you've got all these people, and someone's got to take the picture. So again, not a new feature, but definitely an enhanced feature, and one I've actually used it quite a bit. I said the family was here visiting, so I took photographs and then I joined the photograph, and it works really well. So a few more AI software features. I said I've left them out on purpose. It's not they were better or worse. There's things I want to talk about. I also want to play with them a little bit more, get a bit more fay with them before I do the next Pixel hardware review. But they've also, just to get towards the end of it and pretty much finish off, Google's also introduced Pixel Snap. Now, this is not Snap like taking a photo. It's not another cool camera feature. It's Google's answer to MagSafe. So finally, you can now have all the cool accessories and ease of charging your phone, just magnetically connecting it. Cases that will now let charging go through the case into the phone. As I said, the easiest way to describe it is MagSafe. It's exactly what Apple has. I've used it. I've got quite a few accessories that have magnetic capability that I haven't been able to use my previous Pixels on. They just suck on, start charging. There is a difference there that I noticed reading through some of the spec sheets. So although there's not much difference in the processor and the batteries are pretty much the same, I did notice that with the Google 10 and the Google 10 Pro, charging on both wireless and wired were, I think it was 50. I stand corrected. I just read something there. So it was like 15 watts and 25 watts or 35 watts fast charge. But on the Pro XL, it was like 25 watts and 45 watts fast charge. So there was an ability to put more power into the XL at a faster rate, which is interesting when it comes to having to do a quick top up or get some speed going again. So that pretty much brings us to the end of things with a Z. As I said, I will be doing more on Pixel. Um, Blown away. And I have to say, if I didn't say it enough, the indigo blue is definitely going to sell out. This is such a gorgeous looking phone with beautiful color. Anyway, right, on to where we now tech news. So every time I click on something, I start losing my um, show notes. I really do apologize for this. I'm going to quickly click out again and click back in again, and hopefully it brings it back up. Here we go. Right, so tech news. IFA starts this week. I won't lie, I'm really bleak that I'm not going. IFA is basically Europe's answer to CES, the Consumer Electronics Show. So that happens in Vegas in January, and IFA happens now in Berlin. The worst part, I was actually given press tickets to go through. I just time and just didn't have the funds to commit to it. But maybe I'll do a GoFundMe for next year to some of these shows, because there's nothing better than actually being on the ground and seeing them, as opposed to like watching the YouTube videos and the press releases and all those wonderful things. But anyway, so if you are in Europe, I think it starts on the 5th. If it's over the weekend. So I think the press is tomorrow, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday is for the public. If you're into tech, if you're into Europe, I don't know if there's cheap flights. Probably not, given that it's the show. But IFA is really, really cool. So yeah, get off to it. Go and have a look, see what it's all about. Anthropic. So Anthropic makes Claude, another one of the AI engines. They're giving users until September 28 to either opt out or consent to chat and code transcripts being used to train AI models. This is a little bit concerning for me. So let's just pause there, right? So at the moment, you get Claude, Free, Pro, and Max. I think those are the things. Free, Pro, you pay X, and Max, you pay more. What they're basically saying is you either have to opt out or consent. That you either opt out, like leave, go, or you consent to Anthropic using all of your prompts. Now, is this a big deal? Not if you're not designing the new E equals MC squared. But if you're working inside AI, using AI as a tool to assist you with a new business plan, maybe you're developing a new offering, you probably don't want to be sharing your ideas, that if anyone ever wants to start researching on how to do something because they've now seen your product because you're in market, and then getting fed, really accurate inputs based on what you've gone up and down with. I just want to say that I've always been an advocate and or accepting of the fact that, like, and I'll use Google as an example. We are the product. You get Gmail for free. You get 15 gigs of storage for free. You get docs, slides, spreadsheets for free. Nothing is free. You have to pay. They learn from us. They use our images. They build stuff based on what we do, and I make peace with that. But I do think that when we in a very uncharted part of the world that we're in at the moment with AI and what AI is doing, there's a lot of clever people out there that are probably using it to build a lot of really cool stuff that will go on to make them a lot of money. And hey, well done to them. I don't think it's fair that they would be able to keep that and use it to learn. Anthropic says they're sure that they won't sell user data and uses automatic filters to protect sensitive information. I'm just reading this while I'm waxing on here, and they have got a pop-up that's reminding that this is happening. But I still think it's a little bit unfair. Are the others doing it? Possibly, but they haven't actually come out and said, we are going to use your information to train our tools. Like, that's the difference. A little line at the bottom that just says, hey, these machines are being trained. And generally, I think as a rule of thumb, maybe it's too late. If you are using AI and you've got stuff that's sensitive, maybe once you've got your answer, delete it. Take it out of the model. I don't know if as I said, I don't know if it's too late, but it could be a fail safe. I'm going to stay with AI. No, I haven't gone mad. Anyone watching the show, there's a picture of a banana. There's a picture of a banana on the screen at the moment. So Google's Gemini banana model is bananas. It's cheesy, I know, but it really is. This tool is what generative AI image creation has been waiting for. I've been playing with it now for probably a week, maybe 10 days, and it is incredible what this model can do. So just quickly in a nutshell, and I think it's important to point this out actually. Generative AI, as its name suggests, generates images. So this is why it gets logos wrong and people's faces wrong and things like that. Picture it having a pencil in its hand and drawing. So it is generating the image every single time. And a banana kind of always looks like a banana, right? But your logo, if it's complex, won't always look the same. And you'll get different variations of it. And that's why it's generative. However, that being said, you can generate images as you could with ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity or any of the others. Where banana is bananas is editing photographs. So I am not a creative person. I'm a creative thinker. I can ideate, I can do strategy. I come from a very long line of marketing campaigns. But I've always had to have really, really good creative people around me to actually produce the content. That's not something I can do myself. So with generative AI, I've obviously been quite excited because I can start putting some stuff together for me. But I've also worn the hat of an art director or a creative director. I've sat with creatives and I've said to them, right, you see what you've done there? Can you move that logo a bit to the left? Can you move a bit to the right? Maybe change the color of the font, make it bigger, make it smaller, etc., etc., etc. This is what Google Gemini Banana does, right? So I took a picture the other day. It had been set up for me for an EDM that I was designing that had to go out. It referred to a specific date and time, and it had a big color bar where this date and time was, and out went the email. Now I needed to do another post that this picture was perfect for, but it now had all this fun talking about a date and time. And I just put into Bananas, I said, please remove that date and time. Change the wording in the same font, same size, same position to whatever the new wording was, and remove the green block that has the mention of the web link, whatever it was. Within seconds, there it was. It was perfect. It listened to exactly what I had asked for. And this is what makes the Banana engine so, so, so cool. So yeah, I'm very excited with what I've been playing, with what I've done so far and what I've seen so far. I think that there's a lot of really cool stuff we're going to be able to do with it. Everybody says to me, and there's always comments flying, and I can see comments coming through now. Is this going to take my job? And I work with creatives. I work with a lot of creatives. It's not going to take your job. It might. What it might do is it will amplify your ability to create. You still need to have a creative brain to create content, and it's all good and proper. It says yes, just type and it generates. But then, how do you change it? How do you understand lighting, colors, color balances? So there's still the need for us human beings, and we're still going to be there and create stuff. But for anyone that's just looking to quickly put a picture together, maybe you're doing a PowerPoint presentation and need something a little bit different. You haven't got time to search for or edit it, or try and put some color. I'll give you another example. And I'm going to talk about tennis a bit later on. But when you take a tennis court, all the branding that goes all the way around the tennis court, I wanted to pitch something to a brand that I'm working with. So I told it to take all the branding that was going around, change the color, and change it to just one logo. Boom, there it was. So very, very powerful tool. Definitely a sign of things to come, of what the other models will probably look at and start copying. So yeah, there goes my images again. I do not know why I'm having so many problems today. I'm going to look at the show afterwards, but maybe if someone's listening, they can hit me in the chat or something, or maybe just give me a thumbs up. Are you seeing an image the whole time? Because mine on my control suite here is just going on and off. At the moment, I can see myself. And if I do that, I can see the presentation and I can see the banana, but I keep losing my slides when I advance. Anyway, moving along. Let's see what happens. That's what the joys of a live show. So for the podcasters, you're not missing, people listening on podcasts, you're not missing out on anything. Right. Meta. So Meta said it will introduce some guardrails to its artificial intelligence chatbots. Wait for it, including blocking them from talking to teens about suicide, self-harm, and eating disorders. Now, for regular listeners, you know I'm not a Zuckerberg fan, and the fact that this is even being discussed is scary. Facebook should have had these guardrails in place a long time ago. I mean, it's always an after the fact response with this company. They just, uh, I don't want to go on the hatred model. It's just, you have a responsibility when you're the biggest social network in the world, when you're a place where people go to engage, where people go to share information, where people go looking for stuff. Surely you've thought about the fact that your AI chatbots should not be, when someone goes, "Hey, I'm feeling depressed, I want to kill myself," and don't engage. You know, give them Lifeline's number. Do something, maybe alert a person or put them into a chat group with other super positive people. I don't know. It's not my platform. But the fact that you're now talking about the fact that you're going to introduce more the key word here is more guardrails. There's a book from an ex-Facebook employee, I don't know, casual people or clumsy people or something like that. I read a little while ago, and it unpacks some of the scary things and chances that Facebook has taken, and I'm surprised they've got away with the stuff that they've got. Anyway, I think that brings us to the end of tech news. Where do we go from here if the screens actually work? I mentioned I was going to talk about tennis later on. And in fact, if you're watching the show and if my screen is working, this is the exact image that I was talking about. There's a blue background branding that's showing some random advert. I don't even know what those are. And there's a scoreboard at the top. And I took this picture and I told Banana to change it to a certain color and a brand that I needed. And it was perfect. It fitted in perfectly. It was awesome. Anyway, so why do I have a picture of a virtual tennis game up on my screen? Well, if you don't know, I'm involved with VTech, VTEC. We've launched a VR tennis program. It's a STEM program for schools, or any learning institutes for that matter. And in fact, if you want to just learn how to play tennis, this is what's so cool about the VR tennis that we're doing. So the VTech VR tennis system is got 40 STEM training programs. You learn how to serve, you learn how to volley, you learn how to do all these cool things. Basically, yeah, you could actually go into a real court and play tennis. So that's why I've got the picture up there. And if you want to find out more information about it, I'll put a little thing. There's a website. It's tecenters.com. So tecentres.com. We are globally available. I'm obviously only focusing on Australia and New Zealand. That's where I am. And then the last part of Are You Game? I've lost my screen again. This is so frustrating. I actually did play when I wasn't playing VR. Kate and I have been going 1v1 on Clash Royale, and I just got to put this out there because I do not know how and why this is happening. I am the GOAT of this game. If he's listening to the show, I am the GOAT. But every time I play him 1v1, he beats me. But when I play random players, I smash them. And when he plays random players, he loses. So I think the game is rigged. And I think he's doing something that's taking us into a rigging. But anyway, I'm just being a sook. And yeah, for those that don't know the terminology, a bad loser. But yeah, back on Clash Royale, and I've been playing that actually on the fold, on my Pixel 9 Fold. As you know, that I use a Pixel as a gaming phone. There's so much cool artwork behind there, but bigger screen still doesn't help me beat them. Anyway, right, are you game? Q&A, that means we're at the end of the show. Let's look for the question. There are so many image generation tools. Which is best? Great question. See, I've been talking about Banana earlier. In my opinion, I would say Banana. I've just spoken about it. If you rewind the show, or if you only joined the show now, go back 5 minutes. But so I have the whole Google AI Ultra suite. I pay $200, whatever it is. It's expensive, but we're using it to generate like Flow and VEO3 content as well, not just image generation. So I think to answer the question, best for free, probably ChatGPT. Limited, you can only do so many designs a day, images a day. If you're going to spend money, there's a lot of choice out there. Canva offers AI generation. ChatGPT has Sora, which is their paid version. Google's Gemini, which I've just mentioned with Banana and other models as well. So I think to answer this question, if you're on a budget or free, then possibly ChatGPT. Perplexity did some really cool stuff as well. So maybe try different engines, especially if they're free. If you're going to spend money, then at the moment, I would say between Sora and Banana. And I think I'm leaning towards Banana now. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That takes us to the end of the show. So I guess until next time, keep your screens clean and your knobs shiny.